That's what I'm saying. I wait for a couple weeks just to do this. Yeah, I do a couple of weeks just to do this. But anyways, what's up, y'all? It's Super Stinson here. My name is Stefan. So we're gonna get into some more wansee entertainment. So I know we did not do this a long time, but it's like, hold up. Do you think I wanna punch myself for doing that? Oops. Can't do it on my glass. It's not a glass. But anyways. Okay, now let's move on. See?
I'm someone who goes on the deep and dark web constantly.
I hear him in a minute.
It's not what people think. Where it's evil and overpopulated with crazy people. That's only a small percentage of the dark web. Years ago, my girlfriend broke up with me, and I put her personal information on a forum. And soon after that, she disappeared. It's been a while since that happened, and I've ran into people that have disrespected me since. I'm not an intimidating guy, nor do I look intimidating, nor do I ever have physical or verbal conflicts. I always think to myself that these people don't know what could happen to them. I work at a fast food restaurant.
Nah, hold up. I'm not even going to make a lie. It's like the same thing that happened. It was like yesterday too, right? So I'm up here playing outside. Me and Destiny playing with friends. And then I saw a couple people at the car staring. And then we was in the street, right? Then they're talking about man, why these kids need to get out the street. So I'm like, what? Then they gonna take off and drive. Then when we was at front of her house, it was an old lady's car, but no, not her car, but her house. We was like where the concrete at. We was right there. So she came out of her house and talking about we need to go home and this and that. So I said, why? We riding our stuff down the street, or some people staying to watch us because some people can't go everywhere like I usually do while I'm going outside, right? Then she over there talking about, all y'all need to go where y'all live at. So I'm like, this is not your street. I said, and then so one of my friends said, this is a public sidewalk. Then she over there talking about, shut up, little boy, stop talking to me like that. I don't care what it is. The point is, don't stand right in front of my house, this and that. But I'm like, oh yeah, this lady talking crazy. But she wanna act so different. When his mama came, she said what happened here. Then when she was like, she said something like, I forgot, but she said something stupid and said some dumb stuff, but I don't know. But I don't know what she said, but I know this a long talk. I'm sorry, but it's like, then when she said that, now she want to go tell my friend's mama and gonna say that I told her to get out of the street. That's weird.
And at the time of this story, my manager was really on my case about everything. I would be late, mess up orders, have an attitude with customers, and some other stuff I could name, but it's so much. I understood that I was messing up, but the tone that this guy would talk to me embarrassed me in front of my coworkers and sometimes in front of customers. One day, though, that was the last straw. So one day I walked into work 5 minutes before I was due to clock in, and my manager out loud said that the window liquor is finally on time in front of customers and my coworkers. Everyone laughed at me. During my whole shift that night, he would direct smart comments toward me, while still yelling at me for everything that I did wrong. I made up my mind. I was going to find that forum and give his information.
Oh,
On my walk home, I was going back and forth with myself about whether to do it or not. By the time I made it home, I made up my mind. I didn't shower nor did I change clothes. I went straight to my laptop and I searched. I possibly clicked maybe 100 links because on the dark web there are links that will take you down any rabbit hole. A link named Pork Chop piqued my interest. When I clicked it, I was directed to an About page. It only said 6 words. We find it, we chop it. And another link that said, here's an example of what we do. I clicked it, of course. As soon as I clicked on it, the picture went to the point of view from an old school camera, with the date and time in the corner of the screen. The person behind the camera approached the man and followed him. A few minutes go by, and the man noticed what was happening. He turned around and approached the camera while yelling and screaming at the person for following him. Then all of a sudden, you see 5 huge guys dressed in black wearing a pig mask run from behind the man and drag him into the dark. The person holding the camera turns the camera to his or her face and leaves it there for about 5 to 10 minutes. That person also wore a pig mask.
You know, he should have just did. He should. The dude that he was talking to, I would have looked around me, and if I saw all of them and then one person was just standing right there facing me, I would have pushed him and I would have ran that way and I would have took a block or something.
But all you could hear was the man screaming and sounds that I don't want to describe in the background. The camera was then turned back around and the sight that I saw was disturbing. It was something that no one would ever want to see. Some people say that they wouldn't wish it on their worst enemy, but I did. After the video was over, there were links. One said pork and the other said chop. I clicked on the pork and it prompted me to put in a code. I didn't have one, so I backed out. So I clicked on chop. There was information that needed to be filled out, like name, height, description, and place. I filled out all the info for my manager. In the place, it was my job. I submitted the form. At the end of the screen, it said, see you soon. 4 days later, while at work, my manager approached me and decided to apologize for the way he treated me, and offered to give me more hours and said that he would work with me more often because he sees potential in me. A few hours later, it was close to the end of the night. My manager helped me with the trash and took it out for me. As I were putting chairs on top of the table getting ready to mop, I looked outside and saw my manager looking over at something, but he looked worried. I moved to get a better look and I saw what he was looking at. He was surrounded by 6 people in a pig mask with weapons in their hands. I ran outside as they swarmed him, except for one person. He had a camera. I forgot all about these guys, and then I put his information on the website. I ran outside as they approached him. He looked at me for help, but I ran back inside and called the police. It took them 10 minutes to get there. When I looked back outside, what I saw was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I wish I could get the image out of my head. Between the time of me initially seeing them, calling the cops, and running back outside, these guys were gone. But my manager was still there. I went to his funeral the next week. The next day I received an anonymous email that had the whole video. They were watching him this whole time he was on shift. I don't know how they got my email. I never provided any of my information. Till this day, I still feel sick because my manager was starting to be nice to me that day. I can't go back on the dark web.
Y'all stupid as hell. Well, I talk like that. I said stupid as hell. Someone was, hey, I've been in my house. Okay, this is original.
This happened over 25 years ago, but the memories are still fresh on my mind. I moved in with my boyfriend, who was a musician, and I wasn't working at the time. Our budget was small, so when we were offered super cheap rent for a house, we jumped at the opportunity. It should have been a red flag at the time, but we were in no position to refuse. It was far from the city center. We had almost no furniture and lived quite the frugal life. But we were happy to have our own space. The house was simple but cozy and nice. And there was another room in the backyard with no windows, but only a chair right in the middle of it. Needless to say, it was super creepy, so I avoided that part of the house. While my boyfriend was working all day in a music school, I took care of the house. In the beginning, everything was fine. I felt happy there. But after a few weeks, weird things started happening. One day, I put some of the cans and ingredients on the kitchen table while I was cooking. However, when I turned around to grab them, they weren't there. At first, I just thought that I had forgotten to pick them up from the shelves. But when cans and knives started showing up in random places in the house, like the bedroom, I started paying more attention. My boyfriend also experienced the same things, and whenever he found the missing items, he just laughed about it. However, things started to change and took a turn for the worse when we decided to clean the backyard. We cut the grass, threw away the trash, and decided to move the chair in the middle of the room. So my boyfriend picked it up and left it in front of the house to be collected. He told me that he felt sick the moment he entered that room. I thought he was overreacting, but when I entered it, I immediately felt a heavy weight on my chest and a piercing headache. However, everything would be fine again once we left that area. It was scary, so we went to a local church, got some holy water and salt from the priest, and cleaned the room. We thought that everything would be okay now. My boyfriend had to leave for work, and I continued cleaning inside the house. But I didn't feel calm and perky as I usually did, because I constantly had the feeling that someone was watching me. I even checked the doors and windows to see if there was anyone around, but no one was there. And I still felt uncomfortable and was paranoid all day. When my boyfriend returned home in the evening, we started hearing noises coming from outside. This area was kind of dangerous, especially at night, so my boyfriend was super careful when going outside. He thought that it could be a robbery. Everything was alright, except for the fact that the chair was back inside the room. It was in the same place as before, so he got really mad when he saw it, thinking that some punk was playing a trick on us. He went outside and decided to grab the chair, break it, and throw it away. But I could see the panic on his face when he couldn't move the chair. For whatever reason, it was completely fixed to the ground. Not like it was glued to the floor, but more like it weighed 10 tons. No matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't move. Because he had to come up with another plan, he ran inside, grabbed holy water and salt, made a circle around the chair, and started praying. Suddenly, we heard a loud bang. Thousands, maybe millions of cockroaches started coming out of every sewer hole outside of the house. I am terribly terrified of cockroaches, so I guess this was my worst nightmare. He left the chair and we rushed inside the house. And after we checked everywhere in the house, we locked all the doors and windows, and then ran away to my mom's house. As the incident happened on a Friday evening, we decided to stay at her house until Sunday to calm down. On Sunday afternoon, we returned home and everything felt normal. There were no traces of insects around, and the chair was still in its place, but the house seemed quiet. We started relaxing a bit, and as I had just refilled the fridge on Friday with groceries, I decided to start cooking something nice for dinner. However, when I opened the fridge, I saw an image I will never forget. All the food was full of maggots, and it was almost completely decomposed. The smell was horrible inside. I have never seen anything like it before. I mean, the fridge was still on and seemed to be working. but the food was not frozen, and this level of decomposition could not be reached in less than 48 hours. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I screamed and showed it to my boyfriend, who also couldn't understand what happened, but there was nothing we could do with the food or the fridge. Later, we finally decided to give the house back, and we moved out to another city, and fortunately, I've never experienced anything like that again. But that incident still gives me the chills.
Alright, another one, 2, 3.
This happened to me recently. I was on my way home from the bank when someone suddenly called. When I looked back, I could see a man in his late 40s on the road.
Dang, 13 seconds? Only 13 seconds? Only 13 seconds? Then they gonna just...
And he had pretty long, shaggy hair that almost reached his shoulders. Besides that, there were so many small scars on his face, which made me feel really uncomfortable. I asked him if he needed any help, and he asked me for some food because he had a 5-year-old girl who was starving. However, it was somehow odd. The way he spoke didn't sound pitiful to me at all. And he was saying it quickly, as if he had memorized the lines. I stared blankly at him for a minute, and then felt anxious. I'm sorry. I have to go now. I left abruptly. Hey, hey! He kept calling from behind me, and then started yelling at me because I didn't turn my head around. I was so scared that I eventually passed my house and ran straight into another alleyway. Because it was especially hot that day, my town was pretty quiet, and that only made things scarier. Now that I think about it, this situation was really creepy. I don't even know where he came from. I didn't hear any footsteps, but when I looked back, the man walked right in front of me, asking for food again.
I don't got no food, ugly.
This incident happened in my neighborhood, maybe 10 years ago. There was a doctor in my town. He was married, but this guy had an affair with a minor he met online. Anyway, he went into the motel with a girl one day, like he apparently usually did. But the girl who was in the bathroom washing up didn't come out of the bathroom. When he finally went inside, he found out that the girl accidentally slipped on the wet floor and died because of a concussion. But he couldn't call 911 because he was embarrassed. He had to keep his social status, and he had a wife and family, you know. So he began to do something terrible and unbelievable. He dismembered her body and cut her into bite-sized morsels to reduce her volume. He then began to eat her guts and flesh.
Bro, what's wrong with
He
this
cleaned
dude?
up the bathroom and left the motel with the rest of the corpse stuffed inside his suitcase. He knew he had committed a serious crime. After he left, 2 male staff members started a conversation. The chick yesterday was hot, man. It's a good thing the room she stayed in only has hidden cameras in the bathroom. We can watch that at least.
Oh. Boy, why that is scary?
One of my
No, because when it was like, bing, I was like...
has hidden cameras in the
Like, I'm gonna show you
bathroom.
what I just
We can
did.
watch that at least.
I was like, dang.
One of my friends got married not too long ago. She was living with her husband and mother-in-law, who was the type to nag a lot to her. For your information, my friend used to be a little
No,
chubby,
kick her
and
out
because
that
of it,
house.
her
Oh.
mother-in-law scolded her frequently and prevented her from eating food. It was ridiculous. When I heard that, I met her at a cafe and I could see that she didn't look well. So I asked her what happened, and then she said something really creepy. My friend couldn't hold back her hunger after midnight, so she snuck into the kitchen quietly.
Kick her out there.
When she heard her mother-in-law snoring in her sleep, she started eating some of the food in the refrigerator. Suddenly, she felt something was wrong. She felt like someone was watching her, so she turned around and her mother-in-law was staring at my friend. Her eyes were raised while she made a snoring sound with her mouth on purpose.
Bruh, she gonna eat her. She gonna eat her up. Four now?
We're so embarrassed we overpaid for this used car. We don't even want to show our faces around here.
If you don't see me, you're not seeing the most...
I don't want to stupid car fact. Episode 1. My dad.
A few days ago, my dad lost his shoes at a restaurant. When he checked the CCTV, he saw that an old man went outside wearing his shoes. At first, my dad decided to just think that he made a donation. But the next day, a package arrived at his company office. As he opened the box, he saw a new pair of the exact same shoes that he had lost the day before. And the sender was unknown. Let's think about it. My dad lost his shoes just yesterday, but when he checked the delivery date, it was dated a few days ago. Dad was just satisfied with the new pair of shoes that he received, but my mom and I are still feeling uncomfortable and weird about it. I mean, who would send shoes to you for free and for no purpose at all? What a weird situation.
He killed somebody.
This happened a few days ago. I found a cell phone in the corner of my bed while cleaning my room. Of course, it was not mine, and it didn't belong to any of my friends either. So I turned on the cell phone to check what was in it, and I was left speechless. Well, I've never seen that cell phone while living in this house for several years. I found it just today. But when I checked the phone's recent call history, one was made just yesterday. If someone knows the answer to this, please let me know. What should I do with this cell phone now? It seems like growing a terrarium is in fashion now, but I threw out my terrarium a few days ago. One day, I bought a terrarium at a store while heading home. I put it next to my bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I saw a girl lying next to me on my bed.
Oh my God.
And the scariest part was that her neck was halfway turned. But as soon as I jumped up, screaming, she was already gone. At first, I thought it was just a nightmare or some kind of sleep paralysis.
Nah.
A few days later, I had a dream this time, and I was inside of the terrarium. I was on something like a big hill, and dolls made of bones were digging through the soil of the garden. As soon as I stepped closer, I could see the bones on the ground. Then I woke up from my dream in fright. Because I felt uncomfortable thinking about the woman I saw a few days ago, I went into the bathroom with a terrarium. I started taking all the plants and moss out of the glass. You know, moss is usually very easy to peel off. However, this one didn't come off easily. It was as if the roots of the plant grew so deep that it felt like they were stuck to the soil. I was about to turn on the water and wash the roots, and at that moment, little white pieces rattled and were drained down the sink. What was that? Suddenly, I was struck with fear. I couldn't even think of washing it anymore. Eventually, I had to throw the plants outside. What were those white pieces I saw? What if they were real bone fragments? It happened when I was in middle school.
picture.
One day,
my
2 of my
God.
classmates committed suicide.
Oh my God. This is the one I'm talking about. Stuff like this, like a picture, like a missing picture from people. Now that's the most.
Together on the roof of an apartment complex. Everyone in the class wondered why they did that and felt sorry for them. And a few days later, we received a group photo from our school trip. The moment we looked closely, we found something unbelievable. Some of the students were screaming, and some were crying. It was insane. When I looked at it, it was really, really weird. The 2 friends who committed suicide together were standing next to each other, and their eyes were looking upwards the same exact way. It was strange enough to make the viewer feel unpleasant. Well, eventually our teacher ended up burning the picture. What was up with that picture? I have no clue at all.
Oh, nah. That smell creepy. Too far, dear. Oh.
I'm pro athlete stylist Kelly Barnett, and I'm here with Nicole and Miles, and we're out to find the top looks for day 1 back to school at Dick's Sporting Goods. And so we.
Too far, dear.
This happened a week before my 19th birthday. I had invited 3 of my closest friends over to my place since my parents were out of town for a few days, and my sister had recently moved to the dorm.
I mean, when you play Too Far Dear, it's like when we play it, we don't play the scary version. We probably play like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, anyway, 15 minutes later, my friends Keith, Jay, and Marcus showed up at my door with a handful of beer for the perfect boys' night. We watched movies, chugged on some drinks, and even had an epic pillow fight until 10:45 p.m. That's when Keith suggested that we play an extreme truth or dare game to make this night a blast. The boys mostly preferred truth, which was hilarious as they were compelled to answer embarrassing questions. But when it was my turn, I chose to do a dare. They all discussed among themselves for a solid minute, until Jay finally dared me to dress up as a girl and walk outside. At first, I hesitated, but accepted it regardless. I found a blonde wig in the storage box, which was from last year's Halloween, and wore one of my sister's fancy dresses that she saved for special occasions. Then we went outside looking for some fellows to prank, and that's when the sight of a few guys smoking on their motorbikes caught my eye. They all looked like they were around in their mid-20s. I walked past them while my friends hid behind the bushes, waiting for a reaction. Soon, I could tell that they were gazing at me, and when I glanced over to get a peek of them, I realized that they were all coming towards me. As they moved closer, one of them asked if I came here often, and if he could get my phone number. Too bad, I'm a boy, loser. I started laughing frantically as I removed my wig. However, they didn't seem to like this prank, and I figured that was a huge mistake I had made. Suddenly, he pulled out a pocket knife and said that I was gonna pay for that awful prank. Panicked, I instinctively kicked his left leg, making a run for it, as I heard the others starting their bikes up to chase me. All of my friends who witnessed that moment immediately headed back to the house to call 911. Meanwhile, I was shaking with fear as I further advanced toward the main road. Unfortunately, those punks ganged up on me, blocking my path, and I was thrown to the rough surface by a strong push. The guy I had kicked in the leg earlier got off his bike and pulled out his knife once again, with the creepiest grin I've ever seen on his face. Do not ever prank on me, you bastard! When he was about to stab me while I was screaming, I noticed that he abruptly stopped midway. There was a loud police siren near us. The volume of the sirens got louder, and finally, they ditched me and ran away. I was laying on the road in pure shock. Luckily, I was rescued by my friends who had informed the police right on time. We never encountered those guys anymore around our town, nor did we ever play that stupid game after that. I cannot imagine what would have happened to me if the cops were even just a minute later.
Dang, no friends took off on him. I wasn't even getting involved to this. I'm not watching now. Well, what? I want to know if this and that.
It all started when I was 7, other brother off it, and that meant it ran away with a strange form. It had lots of blotches.
Yeah, alright. Ooh, last one, y'all. Last one.
This happened to me when I was around 14 years old. I was at a sort of religious class located far from our main school building. I was drawing my cartoon characters, waiting for my teacher. However, an hour had passed and he didn't come. One of my classmates went out to see what was wrong, and it turned out that our teacher didn't arrive yet. So we had to wait a bit longer. After she told us that information, we continued waiting. I started drawing again until one of my friends, Aina, suddenly pulled on my sleeve and whispered, "Something is wrong with CT." I looked at CT, who was sitting at the back with the loud group. She wasn't saying anything or laughing. Well, it was quite weird seeing her like that, because she was the one who always talked a lot in that group. And then I saw that she was holding a small piece of black cardboard and a pocket knife. Since we had an art class that day, I thought that she might have been doing her homework at first, but I froze when I glanced at her the second time. She started carving something on the cardboard, and very aggressively. I couldn't see what she was carving, but she then woke up, went outside of the classroom, and stood there staring at something. Aina poked my shoulder, signaling that I should check out CT's cardboard. So I sneakily went to her seat to grab the piece of cardboard she left on the table and went back to my seat. As soon as we flipped the cardboard over, we got goosebumps all over our bodies. Something was written on it. The words meant, "We didn't disturb them, they disturb us," in our language. Aina and I looked at each other. When I got up to return the piece of cardboard, CT was already in her seat and stared at me with a scrutinizing look on her face. I sat down and slid the piece of cardboard under my desk. All of a sudden, I had the sudden urge to know what the heck was going on. So I got up and went towards her with Aina. "Hey CT, how's it going?" I asked. But she didn't answer my question. Then I could hear Aina whispering the Lord's Prayer, and my fear alarm started buzzing again.
What's wrong with this girl?
Then Aina tried to talk to CT, but for some reason, she suddenly shuddered. And I knew the reason. CT started to mumble the exact words that she had carved onto the cardboard, but this time her voice changed. She sounded like a demon. Her voice was deeper and lower than a man's, and her eyes simultaneously started to turn white. Her mumbling was getting louder, and now she began to scream while shaking her whole body. Everybody in the class stood on their seats and watched what CT was doing with fear. Before long, CT suddenly stopped, dropped her face slowly down on the desk, and began to sleep. I quickly returned to my seat and tried to take out the cardboard, but it was not there. I searched all over the classroom, even inside of the bin, but it was gone. The next morning, I went to CT and asked her what she was doing in class yesterday, and she replied, "Oh, I was sleeping during the whole class." "You sure?" I asked again. but she said
Wow,
yes,
no,
nodding
you
her
was
head.
not sleeping, no.
Was my friend possessed?
You look like
Could
that,
it
but
be
you didn't
real?
look like that before.
And what she told me next made my face turn white and my heart drop. Oh yeah, while I was sleeping yesterday, I was at some church, and I saw a very beautiful stained glass window with a nun. I wonder who that nun was, though.
Oh my god! What the heck? Nah, I ain't about to just let that slide and nobody ain't just saying good. I know some of y'all saying good.
She was doing. Oh yeah, while I was sleeping yesterday, I was at some church, and I saw a very beautiful stained glass window with a nun. I wonder who that nun was, though.
Dang. True creepy horror story anime. I'm already 13. And I was still watch this.
This is a true story from when I was 18 years old. It still creeps me out just thinking about it. It all started when I was heading home from my friend Jason's house. It was about 3 a.m. in the morning, so it was pretty dark outside. I was walking towards a bus stop to catch the blue night bus that ran during after hours. My friend didn't really reside within a...
You know what this dude sound like? That reminds me like the GOAT animated stories Llama Art.
Urban area. He was more or less closer to the downtown region. That meant there were a lot of random weirdos strolling around the streets, which definitely made me a little uncomfortable, to say the least.
Yeah,
You're uncomfortable, I have to sleep out here. I decided to wait inside the glass shelter of a nearby bus stop, as I regretted my decision to take the bus this late at night as opposed to just calling an Uber. I couldn't help but notice the dozens of flyers stuck up on the glass of the shelter. They were scattered everywhere, all varying from different things like job postings, rooms for rent, that kind of thing. There was this one flyer that really caught my attention. It was a picture of an older gentleman doing a peace gesture with his left hand. The title of the posting was called, Easy $300 in One Day, Call Me. I decided to read further into the flyer as the thought of making an easy $300 in one day seemed like a bargain one couldn't refuse. The flyer had a description which read, if you are looking to make a quick $300, then you've come to the right place. This job entails the assistance of cleaning/chores for a period of 12 hours. Call my cell phone and the details provided below if you're interested. Regards, Philippe. I was a part-time college student, so any extra money would have definitely been beneficial to me. I decided to take a plunge at the opportunity, so I took a picture of the flyer as I see a night bus arriving towards my stop. As I boarded the bus, I refrained from calling the because I didn't want to wake the employer up, so I ultimately decided to text the number instead. Hello, please contact this number as I am interested in the job presented in your flyer. About 10 seconds later after sending the text, I get a call from an unknown number. I assume it was the guy in the job posting, so I answer it. Hello? A man answered back, Hey, you interested in the job? Is this Philippe from the $300 a day posting? Yes it is. What's your name, kid? I'm John, sir. How are you?
I'm a
He completely disregards my question and says, "You mind coming over right now, kid?" Sir, it's kinda late for that. Can we do tomorrow? Kid, listen. I know it's very late at night, but both my wife and grandma are sick, so I could use a helping hand as soon as possible. I felt really uncomfortable knowing this guy was trying to guilt trip me into coming over to his house. Mind you, it was approximately 3 a.m. in the morning, which made the thought of going that much more absurd. I tell him, "Sir, if we can arrange this for tomorrow, it would be much more convenient for me." "Kid, John, listen. If you come right now, I will pay you double. $600. Take it or leave it." Whether the man was bribing me or not, I unwisely took the bait. I ended up saying, "I'm on my way. I'll be there in about a half an hour," while simultaneously getting off the bus to call an Uber. I ended up getting dropped off at the address provided within the flyer and immediately began second-guessing my decision. While standing in front of the house, I get a call on my cell phone. It was from an unknown number again. I answer it and say, "Hello? Hey, Johnny, can you see me?" No, sir. Where are you?" "Look at the window." "I'm looking at it, but I don't see you, sir." "Look a bit closer. I'm looking dead at you." Where, sir?" I get startled by a firm grasp on my shoulder. "Oh, I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to scare you. I thought you could see my reflection in the window. Anyways, please allow me to show you inside my house." Thank you, Philippe." "You can call me Creep." "Creep? Why would I call you Creep?" "It's a nickname that my mom gave me as a young boy. All my close friends call me that, so I'd appreciate it if you did the same." Okay, Philippe. Creep. We are technically friends now, right?" Yeah, sure."
No.
"Very well then. Let me show you inside, John." We end up going inside, and I can't help but notice the amount of dolls laying around his house. It honestly looked like he was a hoarder that had an obsession over dolls. I decided to ask him, "Why do you have so many dolls?" "It's just a collection that I've accumulated from my childhood. Aren't they precious, John? I've built a special bond with these guys. I'll never feel alone again, you know?" At this point, I was pretty convinced that the name Creep was actually his biological name due to the creepy vibes he was giving off. "I see. Well, what exactly does this job entail?" "Well, for starters, my grandma and wife are unfortunately ill, so I have to take care of them since they're in bed all the time." "If you don't mind me asking, what's wrong with them?" "Well, my grandma has Parkinson's, so she's unable to function without my assistance. My wife sadly got into a tragic car accident after her dance rehearsal. She's pretty much paralyzed in her legs and can't walk, so I now have to take care of her as well." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." "She was so beautiful before the accident. I'm unbelievably lucky to be with such a beauty like her. We got married and had about 100 people there. It was the best wedding ever. Sorry if I'm getting carried away." "No worries. What would you like me to do for now?" "You can start by vacuuming the house. Just don't go inside the bedrooms, because that's going to disturb my grandma and wife's sleep." A couple minutes later, I begin vacuuming the hallway upstairs. The bedroom doors were slightly open, so I could vaguely view the inside of it. I remember seeing a glimpse of a woman sleeping on a bed, which I assumed to be his wife. It was unfortunate to see her like that, as she was quite beautiful from what I was able to see. I noticed the man was in the other bedroom having a conversation with his grandma, so I continued vacuuming without drawing too much attention towards his direction. "Have you been feeling better? Are you okay?" The next part of the story is what sends chills down my spine. The man asked me to put the vacuum down and meet his grandma. As I approach the inside of the bedroom, I see a creepy life-size doll laying on the bed. I unhesitatingly ask him, "Where's your grandma?" "John, don't be rude. This is my grandma." I felt my heart fall to my stomach when he said that. I honestly wanted to get the hell out of there, but I didn't want to potentially put my life in danger, so I just went along with it and said, "Nice to meet you." He then said, My grandma thinks you're really handsome and you should come over more often. Sure, I'll definitely come over more often. My grandma wants me to grab her some McDonald's. Why don't you continue vacuuming the place while I do that? Sure, sir. Creep. The man then hands me an envelope and says, "Here's your $600. Thanks for being there for us." Yeah, no problem. I then continue vacuuming the hallway as the man exits the house. I need to get the hell out of here. This guy is a psycho. As I dropped the vacuum on the floor, I peeked inside the bedroom of where the man's wife was sleeping. To be honest, I felt really skeptical about leaving her there, so I shouted, "Ma'am, is everything okay? Can you hear me? Ma'am, are you okay? Can you hear me?" She didn't say anything. She honestly looked like she was heavily sedated off the meds I saw on top of the nightstand. I end up leaving the house and catching an Uber. I eventually make it home and remember the man had gave me the $600 in an envelope. Thank God I made it out of there. At least I made an easy $600. I opened the envelope only to see 6 pieces of paper. Each piece had a poorly drawn face with $100 written on it. I shouted in anger, "What the hell is this?" I contemplated on giving the man a piece of my mind, but I honestly didn't want any further conflict with this psycho. Just before heading to bed that night, I got a call from an unknown number. It was quite obvious that it was the creep, so I ignored it and never looked back. It's been a couple months since that creepy experience. I haven't gotten any more calls from that unknown number since. I was strolling around with my phone one day when I got a notification that someone followed me on Instagram. I noticed it was the creep from the avatar picture on his profile. I was pretty freaked out that he was able to track me down since he only knew my first name and we haven't contacted each other since. I noticed he had only one post, so I clicked it. It was a picture of the woman and the creep on the same bed. She looked sedated while wearing a wedding veil. The creep had his arm around her while there were hundreds of dolls surrounding the two. The caption read, "The best wedding an audience ever."
That girl did.
She was so beautiful before the accident. I'm unbelievably lucky to be with such a beauty like her. We got married and had about 100 people there. It was the best wedding ever.
Story. Wow.
This story happened to me on a Saturday night. It happened when I was with my girlfriend, who we'll call Lisa for the sake of the story. I was sitting on my bed watching TV while Lisa was on her laptop working on a school report for her English class. It was due the following Monday, which kept her busy on the laptop for the majority of the weekend. My parents were out of town, so we had the house to ourselves. I'd just like to point out that Lisa and I were polar opposites from each other. I say this because she was a goth who fantasized over dark and morbid kind of things. I was the complete opposite from that. However, our different personalities didn't stop us from pursuing a relationship with one another, as we'd been together for about 4 months now. I'd also like to point out that Lisa was extremely socially awkward if she was talking to anyone other than myself. There was a time where I invited her over to a family dinner with my parents. Lisa was understandably a bit shy at first, but as the night progressed, it turned out to be less awkward than I anticipated. Near the end of dinner, my dad asked Lisa, "So Lisa, if you could have anything in the world other than Jack, what would it be?"
I don't know if I feel comfortable answering that.
What do you mean? What else would you want other than my son?
Harold, stop it. Sweetie, you can tell us only if you want.
I could tell Lisa was getting uncomfortable about the impromptu interrogation my parents decided to have by the look on her face.
Well,
just like Shrek, Nutty Professor, and all these other movies, like when they be on when they go stuff like that, and then you just know you want to sit there at peace and then just want to meet your family, right? Then somebody always gotta start stuff when they do that. I don't even think I want to do that if I even had one. Cause why would he even say some dumb stuff like that? And then it's like, I hate when people do that because they always try to be funny. Like, I don't know.
It's complicated.
To be honest, I was a little taken back by that statement, as I thought I knew everything about her. I decided to chime in saying, what do you mean, Lisa? Things took a total 180 when Lisa says,
Don't you guys wish you could resurrect your dead loved ones?
Sure, I guess I would. My family found Lisa quite bizarre since that day, but oddly enough, accepted her for who she was. Fast forward to now, and that statement that Lisa made would all make sense to me. Lisa was tired of the monotony of her report, so we decided to head to the balcony. I remember both of us being out of our minds while gazing out into the horizon. Midway through, Lisa offhandedly makes an odd remark saying,
It would be pretty cool if I could see Todd again.
Todd was Lisa's ex. I found this quite strange that she would say such a thing, considering the fact that we were both dating each other. I assumed she was out of her mind, but sadly that...
When you say something like that, then you know they say stuff like that. You know they trying to start an argument.
Didn't stop me from giving her a piece of my mind. I agitatedly said, Fine, go see him then. It's not like I ever liked you. Lisa then gives me a death stare like she wanted to throw me off the balcony. I stare back at her while I casually take another... A long pause of awkward silence occurred, but then I had a nostalgic moment. I remembered Lisa mentioning something about Todd passing away just before we dated. His cause of death was due to undisclosed reasons I won't get into. Everything Lisa was saying all made sense now. She was just expressing that she wanted to see Todd again since he was no longer here with us. I attributed my lack of memory to being in my mind, which helped make the mishap more plausible, so I extend my arm to pass it to Lisa. She then slaps the out of my hand and aggressively says,
He was better than you anyway.
I had gotten into arguments with Lisa in the past, but I could tell she was at her boiling.
It's gonna start an argument and it's gonna break the relationship. See what I mean? I know, like, every time a girl, and even though you go off this girl, anybody, and they gonna say that, oh, I miss my ex-boyfriend, and this, and
this
then
time,
a dude gonna be
she then storms out of my place and immediately gets into her car. Despite being wrong in the situation, I stupidly shouted from the balcony saying, Fine, have fun fishing on Tinder, loser! She then flips me the bird and begins driving off into the distance. I eventually head back to my bedroom and continue to watch TV. About 5 minutes later, I couldn't help but feel guilty about what I did. I then decide to text Lisa saying, Please come back to my house. I'm not trying to fight. I also have a free place in more in case you forgot. A couple minutes go by and I get no reply. That's when I start becoming more anxious. I kept contemplating whether I should call Lisa, but I didn't want to submit to the fact that I was begging for her forgiveness. I continued watching television. That's when I noticed Lisa's laptop sitting on my computer desk. She had stormed off and obviously forgot to take it with her. I noticed that Lisa had left her school report still open on a Word document, so I decided to proofread it, thinking it would be my silly way of apologizing to her. The report was titled, Be with your loved ones, even when they're dead. This wasn't that surprising, as I knew the kind of person Lisa was, but it was also disturbing due to the circumstances that had just occurred on the balcony. I skimmed through the report and find Lisa talking about our relationship, and how she wasn't internally happy and needed some sort of closure. I became more and more anxious the further I read into the report. She goes into detail about her past relationship with Todd and how she misses him tremendously. As I skimmed through more of the report, I come across a part where Lisa talks about being able to reconnect with Todd through a satanic blog she found online. To summarize what she said, it basically insinuated that you would have to go to the last spot where the person died and die the same way. That way you'll be able to reconnect with them in the afterlife. I begin panicking and call Lisa's cell phone. She then picks up the phone and says,
What do you want?
In a voice full of disdain and hatred. I try to pretend like I knew nothing about the report and say, please come back. I'm sorry about everything that happened. I'm sorry about what I said.
There's no coming back from this, Jack.
That's when I hear the sound of a train honking from a distance. My heart dropped and I yelled, Lisa, where the hell are you?
Where I should have been all along.
I could hear the train getting louder and louder, like it was coming with a full head of steam towards her direction. I began shouting, Lisa, get the hell out of there! Lisa, please, I'm sorry! Desperately trying to stop her from what I knew she was about to do. Lisa, I'm sorry, okay? Get the hell out of there, please! Oh, Lisa, please, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Lisa, please, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, please come back. I'm sorry I was such an awful boyfriend. I'm sorry, Lisa. She then said,
See you again, Todd.
No! No, Lisa! Oh, Lisa, please, I'm sorry.
I don't know you or anybody. Here, take it back.
Just messed up. Somebody just beat that stuff.
When I was 16, I was on my laptop late at night with all of my lights turned off. This was nothing out of the regular because I did this every night. But this night would not end as a regular night. At this point in my life, I thought I was an untouchable teenager. I just wanted to throw that out there. I decided to go on the deep web, but it wasn't my first time, as I have probably done this almost every night for about 2 weeks now. But I never saw anything weird, just mystery boxes and weirdos with fake gore videos. So this night, I decided to go a little darker, even though my friend, who got me into visiting the deep web, he told me not to click on anything crazy. What's the worst that can happen? So I come across these weird links that say toenails for sale, and other stuff like Michael Jackson's breath in a jar for sale. Weird. To myself, I thought,
Man, they don't get out of here with that bull. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, boy, they don't get out of here. They talking about some Michael Jackson's breath for sale. Who sells somebody's dead? Who sells somebody's breath? And then who sells toenails?
this isn't dark, it's just some weird stuff.
Man.
So I started searching even more. Then I saw other stuff like, is anyone in need of a 4-year-old boy? And who needs a woman mannequin? I sort of laughed when I saw that one. Then I started searching for more. Then I started to see the sick stuff. Fresh body parts for sale. Real life snuff film for sale.
Oh my God.
and a link that said, "Don't click or else." So I sat there and I stared at the "Don't click or else." So, guess what I did? Yep, you're right. I clicked it. When I clicked on the link, my laptop started glitching, and it went black for a second, then back to the screen where I clicked the link. I was confused, so I clicked it again, and it did the same thing. Again, I was confused. So I clicked it one last time, and it went straight to a screen that was black. And out of nowhere, a chat bubble popped up that said, "I told you not to click it." I thought to myself that this was a bot and someone trying to scare me, so I X'd out of it. So I just sat there, looking at the screen, waiting for something to happen for about 5 minutes, and nothing. So I got up and I left my laptop on my bed, so I can go downstairs to get something to drink. And while I was in the kitchen, I heard my little sister walking around in her room, which is right above the kitchen, but usually she's asleep by now. But I thought nothing of it. I go back upstairs, get back in my bed, and back on my laptop. By that time, I had to touch the mouse pad to get the screen back on. As the screen faded back on, I can tell something looked different. Then the text bubble popped up and it said, "Don't ignore me." I thought to myself, this is another bot. I clicked X and it was gone. Then a chat bubble popped up again and it said, "You were thirsty?" At this point, I was honestly scared because I was babysitting my sister and my parents were out on a date night. I responded with the question, "You can see me?" Then the other person immediately responded, "You don't have to type, just talk. I can hear you." I was shocked and I literally said, "Oh my God." As soon as I said that, the guy responded in the chat and it said, "God has nothing to do with this." I hopped up and put my Adidas on so I can haul ass out of my room to get my sister. Then a photo came through the chat, and it was a picture of my little sister sleeping. I took off into my sister's room, and there she was sleeping with the window wide open. I woke her up and yelled for her to come with me so we can get outside. As we exited her room to run toward the stairs, my parents' room door opened slowly. We stopped running because we were confused. My parents were supposed to be gone. I yelled out for my mom and my dad. Then I received a text message from a weird number from overseas that said, "No, but if you want me to be your dad, I will." When I looked back up from my phone, my parents' door was fully open, and an older man was standing right there dressed in fully black, smiling at us. At that point, I was frozen in fear, but I had two choices. Pick my 8-year-old sister up and haul ass down the stairs, or sit there like a dummy to see what this guy's intentions were. As we're standing there, the man said, "I told you not to click the link." As soon as he said that, I put my sister over my shoulder, and the man started running toward us. I ran outside with my sister over my shoulder. I went to my next door neighbor's house, and they called the police while I called my parents on the phone. When the cops arrived, they searched the house, and the man wasn't there. I turned over my laptop and my cell phone to the cops. My parents arrived, and they were visibly upset. And as I was giving my statement to the cops, my mother, she received a text message that said, "Your daughter looks tasty." And my father received a text that said, "I told him not to click the link." Till this day, the man has not been found, and I will never visit the deep web again.
5 days later. Dang. 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 5 days later. Ooh.
Can I have a cheeseburger, please?
That'll be $15.
Okay.
Huh?
Dang! Did you like what you saw? No? Who are you? Would you like to see more? Who are you? I asked a question. And I'm really hoping they are not right. What was your favorite part? You are stupid. I'm going to report you. Oh, that was his name. Oh, his really name is Michael. How did you name? How are you? Very far. I want to call the police. I see everything. Dang, if you disconnected, you would die. He on a computer? Nah, let me scroll down. Y'all ain't see that man right there? Nah, I'm not stupid. Oh, he relied on connecting him. You be in that D web too much. In that crazy D. It's that same Wow. This was the best one so far from this episode, this right here. So make sure y'all subscribe, watch the full video. I know it's a long one, and next time, see y'all later. Peace.